Welcome to Behind the Algorithm. Each episode, I sit down with marketers from different industries to uncover what actually happens behind campaigns, content, and the data. Whether you're trying to break into the industry, learn something new, or understand the ever-changing landscape, Behind the Algorithm is here to inspire and start new conversations. So, welcome back to Behind the Algorithm. Today we have Niall with us. So, Niall is the CEO of Notice, which was launched in 2022 with his brother Morgan. So, can you tell us a bit about Notice and why you both started the agency?
Yeah, so we're the UK's number one LinkedIn agency and we're a B2B marketing agency. Why we started it, there's a long and a short version. The short version is when I was about 19 years old, I got this unusual opportunity to work at a marketing startup in London. I say it was unusual because it was a personal branding agency, which nowadays would be very normal. But back then, like, personal branding wasn't a thing at all. Like, it wasn't even a word, like a term. And it was a full service personal branding agency. So we did like PR, we got people on podcasts, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn was like this thing to the side. And there was two instances that made that really interesting for me. The first one was that we had a CEO of a music startup in London, and he was raising money, and I watched him raise over £10 million in his LinkedIn DMs, and he was going back and forth with VCs and private equity saying, you know, like, what's your check size you're writing, and going back and forth sending them the investment deck. And I always thought, why is everyone talking about TikTok and YouTube when clearly there's something with LinkedIn? I mean, the second example is we had a coach at this personal branding agency that was doing like £10,000 a month deals, again his LinkedIn DMs, and at the time everyone was talking about TikTok, everyone was talking about YouTube, no one talked about LinkedIn, and I quickly realised there must be an opportunity there. And the thing that tipped that over the edge was someone actually reached out and offered me my full-time salary to just do their LinkedIn profile, and I was like, there seems something a little bit fishy here with LinkedIn. And it was after that moment that I called Morgan and I said, I think there's an opportunity, and I think we should start a business, and the rest is history.
Wow. We'll get into a lot more about Notice and obviously how you operate and how things started and everything. But firstly, I want to talk about the new LinkedIn algorithm and how it changes what people should be doing on the platform. What have you noticed since these changes?
So I think to understand what's happening with LinkedIn, you have to understand what it used to be like and what it is today. So when I first started posting on LinkedIn, I had about 2,000 followers, but I was getting 20,000 impressions a post. And the reason that it wasn't because I was amazing, it's because there was a supply and demand equation with LinkedIn. So LinkedIn had about 300 million active users, who went on the platform daily, but about 1% of those actually posted content. So from supply and demand perspective, LinkedIn has these feeds to fill of 300 million people. But there's only 1% of them posting, whatever number that is. I'm not going to do quick maths, public maths. So for example, if I'm posting, they have so much demand for content that they have to show me to thousands and thousands of people because they need to fill these feeds. But over the last 2 or 3 years, a couple of things have affected that. The first thing was everyone saw the Laura Costas of the world blowing up and getting 100,000 followers, and I grew to 60,000 followers. And they were like, if you're on Twitter, YouTube, any other platform, you thought, well, do you know what, I'm actually just going to go and post content over here on LinkedIn because it seems easy. So there was a massive influx of content creators like that. And then ChatGPT came around and exploded, and AI, and it became easier than ever to actually post on the platform. So the supply and demand equation shifted. And there was a recent study with Shield Analytics that said if you have 10,000 followers on LinkedIn, the average impressions per post you'll get now is, I think it's 743. So it's gone from the opposite, where before you would have 2,000 followers and get 20,000 impressions a post, to now having 10,000 followers and getting nearly, less than 10% of your audience actually seeing the content. So that's been the massive shift. And that's why what I talk a lot about nowadays is people are fundamentally missing the importance of why you should post on LinkedIn. Everyone came to the platform because they thought, I can go viral, but that should never be the intention with LinkedIn anyway. And that's been the biggest shift, really, is while the algorithm plays a factor and they're constantly optimizing for revenue, obviously they're a business, the biggest shift has been the supply and demand equation, which has been shifting massively the more and more people start posting content.
Yeah, and I think especially in this generation, so many more people are trying to, especially in the marketing industry as well, so many people want to get their face out there because they want to create their personal brand, which is a huge thing. And LinkedIn is the main platform to obviously do that professionally.
Yeah.
So it's becoming so much more difficult to differentiate yourself between everyone else.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's it wasn't a thing. Like I joke at the start about like how personal branding wasn't a thing when I was 19, but now it's a huge thing. Yeah. And this idea, I was at a round table on Thursday with some of the biggest agencies in Manchester, and they were like older guys, 50s, 60s, who were talking about how they're encouraging their team to build personal brands now on LinkedIn, and like, that wasn't even a word used in the marketing landscape 3 or 4 years ago. So yeah, there's been a massive influx of people realising the importance of posting, but also with that, it makes it harder for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. And I think because it's such a big thing, especially, we'll get into it more as well, because I want to talk to you a little bit about what's recently happened with the under 16 bans of social media.
Yes.
Because I think that's going to have a huge impact on marketing,
Yeah.
and obviously how people need to operate and strategically think, because I think it's had such a huge impact. But obviously we're not going to notice that impact yet because it hasn't come about. And yes, we'll get into that. Another thing that you did a post on LinkedIn, which is really interesting and also really relevant for businesses, is the pyramid framework.
Yes.
Can you tell us why it's so important?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about like the supply and demand has changed, and with that your strategy has to change on LinkedIn. So for the first 2 years of the business, we grew to about 7 figures in revenue by literally just like me posting content, getting leads, closing the leads, posting more content. Like, it was like a gold rush. It was insane. You had to do nothing. That is not marketing though. Yeah. Now LinkedIn is much harder, and you do have to have a real strategy. And the strategy we approach it with, and that everyone else should as well, honestly, is through the LinkedIn pyramid. It's really, really simple, and it's 4 stages that you can go through. Stage 1 is positioning. So positioning is just all about how you come across and the perception you give off. That's on a company level and a personal level. When you think about a company level, I'm thinking about the company page, but I'm also thinking about the exec team. So founders, CEOs, heads of marketing, execs, directors, top level leadership. And you all want this cohesive perception that you're trying to give off. That comes across from how your headshot look, how's your banner, how's your profile optimized. That's positioning, and that's the fundamental layer. People often skip to layer 2 and 3, which is content and outreach, because they want quick wins, but it all starts with the fundamentals, which we can get into later on as well. Layer 2 is content, so you have to be distributing on the platform. When I tell people that reach has collapsed on LinkedIn, which it has, they often think, one, why do people still pay us to write content for them? Why do I post so much content? So the value of content hasn't depleted, just the objective behind it has. So back in the day, you posted content for reach, but the reality is, like, LinkedIn as a platform, the benefits of it are the high quality audience. So who cares if I get 2,000 impressions if 2,000 people, so the average salary of someone on LinkedIn is $75,000, an active user. So you think, why do I care if I've only got 2,000 impressions if all 2,000 of those could be decision makers, or a massive percentage of those could be decision makers? There's a bunch of different types of content you can do, but content is the next stage, and then you move on to outreach. So outreach is going out into the market and bringing your product or service to your ICP. LinkedIn has some beautiful features for reaching out to people. One, you can send connection requests, which is a feature that you can't do on any other platform that I'm aware of. You can send DMs, in-mails, and I think a lot of companies, especially enterprise level, forget how scalable and automated you can do outreach. And we're doing thousands of prospects a month we're reaching out to directly through the LinkedIn DMs. And then layer 4 is ads. When I say ads, I think people perk up a little bit and they say, oh, I should do that. The only reason you should be doing ads is there's 2 reasons. You have £10,000 a month that you're willing to burn and it not work. And the second thing is if you're a business that you need so much scale that outreach doesn't matter. So you're an Amazon, you're an Intel, you're an HP, and that's when you can start to look at ads. 95% of people who listen to this and 95% of businesses that we talk to don't and shouldn't be necessarily running LinkedIn ads yet.
Do you going through ads? I went to a talk yesterday and I've never really done much research on ads or paid ads or anything like that at all. And I found it really interesting that there's so many obviously different platforms you can do ads on. I thought, this sounds so stupid to me, but I thought if you post an ad, that's coming out on our platforms, but it's not, and it's so different. So you've obviously got Meta ads, Google ads. Do you find that LinkedIn's probably the worst for doing paid ads, or do you think it's better to do?
It's a really interesting question, right? And ironically, it's a debate that goes all the way to the top. Massive organisations still debate whether you should run LinkedIn ads. The way I would explain LinkedIn ads is, imagine you went to a conference, and there was let's say 10,000 people there. 8,000 of them were in this room, and you paid let's say £8 to go and see them. So you go in, you pay £8, you go and see all these 80% of the people, but they're all not your target audience. They're just people, they're kind of in and around there. That's virtually Meta ads. No offense to Meta ads. Then there's a room to the side, and it's just everyone's in suits, and they're all decision makers and CEOs, but you have to pay 20% more to get in there. That's LinkedIn ads. So LinkedIn ads are more expensive, but you literally are just shortcutting directly to the room of the most high value people you can get in touch with. Why you wouldn't do LinkedIn ads is, and why I say you need higher budgets, is because they are more expensive than a Meta ad or anything else. So you really have to be willing to test not to go deep into the ads world, but you have to be willing to test how much does it cost to acquire a customer, and that might be thousands on LinkedIn, whereas like on Facebook or Meta ads, you can start with a £500 a month budget and then scale that up. With LinkedIn, you do start in the thousands, and it can be quite costly quite quickly.
Yeah, but you probably have, I guess, when you're a B2B business, you're probably easier doing LinkedIn because it's easier targeting who you need to reach.
Yeah, and and this is the mistake people make, is so probably if I had to say, the average order value for our clients across all our clients is probably like £250,000, probably like 250k. So they're like manufacturing companies, they're logistics, freight forwarding, like a lot of them are traditional B2B businesses. And like if they acquire a client and it costs them £100,000, that's a good deal for them. Do you know what I mean? So the issue is, it's like sometimes you have to burn through 50k to learn what ads work and what's the right targeting. And that's why I say that like you should only look at ads if you like want to jump to that scale, or you've already exhausted the content and the outreach.
Yeah.
And like one of the things we'll talk about later is like our sales system, and we're doing about 1 million in sales every year on LinkedIn with a 1-person sales team. So you got to think, if we can do that with a 1-person sales team, with a 3-4 person sales team, like you should be able to do in like 5 million in sales through LinkedIn, just off the back of outreach. And the only reason you should be looking at ads is like you want to scale past that, and obviously then you have to be a massive player.
Yeah. So one thing I want to highlight as well is the importance of starting conversations through LinkedIn.
Yes.
So many people, I know I definitely did, found it's quite hard if you're I'm quite a in myself person.
Yeah.
I don't really like reaching out to people very much, but I think stepping out of your comfort zone is so important, especially in marketing as well. Yeah. So how would you like give advice to people, I guess, that want to start obviously conversations through LinkedIn?
Yeah, great question. So I've got a story about conversations that I always like to tell, and it's about a year ago. The former CEO of Pandora came to work with us on a new venture, and he had one of the best CVs of anyone I've ever met. So he was like CEO of Pandora, CEO of The Body Shop, marketing director at L'Oreal, Coca-Cola, like an amazing CV. And I never jump on onboarding calls. I'm a little bit obviously further back nowadays. But I jumped on his onboarding call in particular because I was like, I think there might be something I can learn here selfishly. And I said to him, when you went to work as the CEO at Pandora, there was obviously massive amounts on the line. This is like Pandora, it's a global brand. And it was a turnaround job. So they weren't having a great few years. They were a little bit on the slide, and they brought him in to turn things around. And he's called Jeremy. And I said, Jeremy, like, what was the first thing you did? Obviously, they brought you in because you had a marketing background. It's like, what was the decisions you made? I said, the first thing I did, he said, I went to Instagram. I went to #Pandora. I found people who'd posted about Pandora more than once. And the reason he did that is because that was his target audience that he wanted to expand on, people who were like deep in the customers. They were posting about it. And he started asking them, what products are you buying? What would you like to see more of? What would you want to do? And I was like, why would you do that? And he said, Niall, fundamentally, like all marketing is just starting conversations. So I think there's a massive lesson there from a marketing level, and that's why, like, if you think about ads, sales, anything, it all comes back to like you're trying to start a conversation with your ICP. On the lower level of, let's say, you're young into your career, you want to meet people, learn as well. LinkedIn again is the best place to start conversations, and there's 3 ways you can do it. You can send a connection request. You can send DMs if you're already connected, and then you can send in-mails, which are all free on LinkedIn. I always say, like, if other platforms like had a way that you could, one, add people you wanted to talk to into your network, a connection request. If YouTube, you could add followers to your own thing. Yeah. People would pay like thousands for that monthly, and it's on LinkedIn, and like everyone's like, oh yeah, connection request. But the irony is, while this is like feels like bad advice, is LinkedIn gives you the ability to get in contact with anyone. And the only gap between that and that is just doing it. A few frameworks I'd like to use. The first one is the 3-bullet point email. I stolen this from someone who did it, I think, to get in touch with the CEO of Snapchat, Evan Spiegel or something he's called. And the person did it by writing a 3-bullet point email. And it was like, hi, I know your time is busy. I'll keep it to 3 bullet points. And the 3 bullet points was like a brief about who they were, why they want to talk to him, and the value he can get from it. And that was it. And ironically, that was the email framework I used to get my job at 19 in the personal branding startup. It was the exact same email that I mirrored. And I would say do that. Like, I get probably 1,000 DMs every month. And like the key is just like keep it really short, keep it brief, and understand that explain that you understand me. So like, I know your time's busy. Here's here's why I want to talk to you, here's what I think you might get out of it. And I'm fine if that is like, hi, I really want to learn this, I know you know it, I know you don't have time to do it, but like I'd just really appreciate if we could do it. It'd be 15 minutes, I just want to ask you these questions, that's it. And I'm like always open to that, and people will be open to it all the way up to the top of major enterprise brands as well.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. So when I started my marketing career, which was only 4 years ago, I literally had 0 followers on LinkedIn, and I thought, well, it's getting past the cringe point of posting, I always found, and I was cringe I still do it now. Every time I post, I think, oh, I can't look at it. But I met some amazing people through LinkedIn, and I went to my first marketing event yesterday through someone I met on LinkedIn. Where was it?
What was it?
It was in King's Cross, and it was on paid ads.
Very
and there was a couple of speakers on it, and it was with a company, Mint, which I only found through this girl that I had on LinkedIn. Yeah. And I would never have gone to those sort of events, or there's been so many other opportunities that you wouldn't have unless you talk to someone through LinkedIn. And it can literally, as you say, it can be a really short message, and most people will reply. I found the marketing community is brilliant. I don't find it a competitive industry at all. Everyone's really friendly. Everyone helps everyone else. And it's just starting the conversations. You've just got to go for it.
100%, and I think these people like, it's ironic that there's like these people, I don't want to be like, come across like a cunt, but there's people in my WhatsApp now that are like, I couldn't dream of having in my WhatsApp, all the way from like cool people on social media to founders, and like they all came from like simple ways of just reaching out. We recently did our LinkedIn report, and now it's a bit easier because people know us, but we did one like 2 or 3 years ago, and like we had amazing names in it. Sophie Miller, I think she's done every report we've ever done. We've got Sophie Miller involved because she's amazing. It's like it just came from like DMing and being like, hi, we've got this, these people will be involved, we think you'd be able to add loads of value, would you be down for it? And that's how you start the conversations. You never know where that goes. It's like the friends you make off the back of it, and it just starts with like just do it, not to plug Nike's slogan there.
We'll steal it for now. Within your team, you said you had one person in your sales team. Yeah. But obviously, you're making over $1 million a year through LinkedIn. So how do you do it?
So people, the irony is we probably should have more people in our sales team. But the key is that it just shows how much leverage you can get from LinkedIn. So there's a couple of fundamental factors of LinkedIn that make it work so well. The first thing that people have to understand is that it's the biggest open database of working people on the planet. And what I mean by that is there's no other way you can find people working in jobs than LinkedIn. So people use a lot of data platforms like Apollo, GoJaberry, ICPs, there's a gazillion out there, Ocean.io. Like all of their databases are built off the back of LinkedIn's database. LinkedIn has the database of working people, and then they usually give you the email off the back of it. So you have to understand that. And the reason that's so powerful is because if you know exactly who you're going after, we're able to do it at scale now, where like we can funnel in a huge amount of leads now to this one person sales team who can just clean up and close these deals. And a lot of companies, the often reason they have a large sales team is because they need more volume of outbound sales. And we have the complete opposite, where because we're able to target so well on LinkedIn, we're able to literally just funnel the leads directly into this one person. We don't need to go out and do massive self-sourcing. So self-sourcing is when you just get given a laptop and it's like, find your own leads, go and close them. And that's like 95% of sales team. And there's nothing wrong with that. And they're like cold calling, they're emailing, they're LinkedIn and poor salespeople. And we don't need to do that. We have automated campaigns that add RSB to our network. We have content that goes out every single week across multiple employees across the business and our company page. We're starting conversations at scale, hundreds of replies coming in every single week. And we literally have one person who is overloaded and just going through it. And it comes from the key understanding of the leverage there is on LinkedIn, the opportunity there. I have in my about section on LinkedIn, it says, I'm a very ordinary guy with a fast growing business because of 2 reasons. 1, I saw the opportunity on LinkedIn, and 2, I capitalized on it. And that is the irony. Like, I'm not dramatically special. I'm very far afield on Musk's IQ. But what I did see and what we still are seeing is the opportunity on LinkedIn that people are overlooking.
Yeah. Do you as well really push personal branding for your employees as well? Because I always found, I worked in recruitment, and we always found that the employees' own content would produce a lot more leads than our company page would.
Yes. That's so funny. I love recruiters. Recruiters are like really unique people because I feel like they just get like, it's such a tough role and you just get like left for dead. It's just like
Yeah.
go and do everything.
Yeah.
It's like go and source your new business, go and do sales, then go account management, and actually recruit at the same time. Like you're actually just gonna do everything yourself. And ironically, there's a lot of transferable skills from recruitment, which is why I love recruiters. So your question was, do we push it internally? Yeah, we have an incentive structure. It's a really fun way I like to do it. So there's two ways you can get your team to post. You can pay people to do it for them, which we do for a lot of our clients. Like we'll take the CEO, the exec team, any key people they want to get posting, and we'll distribute the content for them. That's one way to do it. For a lot of business, it's easier. The other way is incentive structure. So we have an incentive structure that scales from, depending on how many followers you hit, to what you get. And it starts with Amazon vouchers at like 500 followers, all the way to a week away, which we pay for. And I think it's cost us maybe 4 or 5k over the last 2 years, and in 2025 we did 17 million impressions through employee generated content. So I don't have the earned media value on that, but let's just say I would have had to pay a lot more than $5,000 in ads to get 17 million impressions.
Yeah, I think as well it's the building the trust between, when you see a face behind a business, I always say this with any business, when you see a face behind a business, you're going to trust them more than if you're just looking at products or their services.
100%, and I think the EGC element of it gives it this omnipresent feel. So let's say, let me think of a good example. You know, I think Flight Story had it with like Grace Andrews for a while. So obviously Stephen Bartlett is Stephen Bartlett. You know, ooh, everyone loves him, hates him, whatever. Everyone feels something about him nowadays.
Yeah.
But like Flight Story didn't just have Steve. If you looked at it, like you had Grace Andrews, who was the marketing director, who's now left, actually a massive person in brand. You had Georgie Holt, who was the CEO. Like you had all these different people who were building brands, and it starts to make you this feeling of like, God, those guys must be doing well. They seem to be everywhere right now. And you think, oh, that'd be a tough feeling to get, a feeling of being everywhere. But the reality is, when no one else is doing it, it's very easy to just be like, God, these guys just seem to be all over my feed. And especially back in the day. Back in the day, we'd have a team of like 5, and everyone would be like, you're everywhere on LinkedIn. It's like, because no one else is posting.
Yeah. So going on to EGC as well, because
Yes.
I mean, EGC, it's very, you know, it really, I can't get my words out. It's there's so much of it. Like it's so popular nowadays. I mean, it's grown massively. So how do you use EGC through your business, and have you noticed a positive impact from it?
Yeah, 100%. So the EGC, I think, it had the biggest impact early on. So when we weren't that large of a business and we didn't have massive case studies, some of the biggest things you can do is just, like I said, just like have, it's a feeling and a perception. So let me tell you a story about what I learned from Dom, which I think is really important here to tie into the EGC. So when we first met Dom McGregor, who's co-founder of Social Chain, we were about a team of 15, and I can't remember where we were at revenue-wise, but I was living in Portugal, and we thought we were killing it. We went to see Dom, and we sat down with him in a boardroom in Wilmslow, which became our office. And I remember we had this big sheet of white paper, and Dom was taking notes, and me and Morgan just like blurt out the entire business. So like, here's the numbers, here's the revenue, here's the operational expenses, here's the team structure, here's the names, here's the clients we have, here's how much each client pays. Like we just said, and our concept was, we're going to spend 30 minutes just telling him everything, and then I just want him to look at it and tell us what he thinks.
Yeah.
And he looked at it, and he like took this like back step, and like there's a pause, and we were like, oh my God, what's he going to say? And he just went, the brand's way off. And we were like, what? And it was called Ratcliffe Brothers at the time. But what Don went on to explain to us over the next 30 minutes was that 90% of business and marketing is just perception. And one thing that he understood, and Steve understood, and with Social Chain, is this perception. So when Social Chain first started, they had no idea what they were doing. And to the end, they probably didn't have much idea what they were doing, and no one ever does. But the whole time, they looked like the type of company that could handle anything. They were signing like Vimto, Uber, Adidas, the UK government, HMRC, anyone you could think of they signed. And it was this idea of perception. And one thing that EGC gives you, especially in the early days for us, was this perception that we are everywhere. And by being everywhere, all the signals indicate that you're successful. So, okay, you must have a big team because I see all your team everywhere. Or you must be growing because everyone's posting about it. Like, you're not being you're offensive just naturally by everyone like sharing content.
Yeah.
And ironically, what people forget is that if they're going through a bad time, they'll often cut marketing costs, start to reduce marketing, like slow things down, let's be defensive. And ironically, when things are going bad, is when you need to get so offensive, because from a perception issue, companies marketing are companies that are doing well, and that's the way it looks like. An EGC, if nothing else comes from it. Like, not the brand awareness, not the clients. Like, let's pretend all that disappeared. The biggest thing is the perception of it makes it come across like this company is here and they are everywhere.
Yeah. That's really interesting. We'll get on to these conversations about... So I want to ask you, obviously you worked the CEO of Pandora.
Yeah.
And he told you to optimise, obviously, marketing for conversation, which we've got into a little bit. But what could others learn from this of how to actually... I mean, say it's people that want to get into marketing.
Yeah.
They've never had any experience before. How would you tell them to optimise marketing?
If you're trying to get into marketing, we're always hiring. So just apply, especially if you're in Manchester. That's a really interesting question. So the number one thing I would do if I was trying to get into marketing is I'm a very big fan of Daniel Priestley. Do you know Daniel Priestley? Yeah. And I got to have dinner with him in Belfast about 2 or 3 years ago. We were at a conference for one of our clients and he was a headline speaker. And after it, we got dinner with the client, Daniel Priestley, and a few other people. And one of the things he talked about throughout the dinner is this idea, I think he calls it the entrepreneurial apprentice. And he talks about it from a perspective as if you're an entrepreneur, this is what you should do. But I think it applies to anyone who wants to get into marketing as well. And he says that the number one thing you should do is go and work for someone in a small team. So, for example, that's like anywhere from like 3 staff to 15. If you came to our Manchester office now, you'd be sat across the table from me. So just naturally, not even on training basis, you get to see how I operate, how Morgan does sales. You'd hear the sales calls. You'd see how our leaders in the team operate, how client calls go. And it's like an apprenticeship just naturally being in that environment. And Daniel says it's one of the number one things he did. He did it when he was 19 in Australia, and he watched this business grow to, I think it was like low 7 figures. I did the same when I was 19. I went to work for this personal branding agency. I'm now good friends with the CEO, and I got to watch it go from 3 to 16 staff, and it was like massive. I could just duplicate a lot of the things to get us started. So if I was looking to get into marketing, outside of like gaining knowledge, building a personal brand, like let's say we're ticking all these boxes, the number one thing I would do is I'd look for startups that were either marketing agencies or were good at marketing. So it could be a tech company that's good at marketing, that's fine as well. And I would just be like, I just don't care what the salary is, as long as I can pay my bills. Yeah. And I would just like, I mean, as long as there is one. And I would just be like, I just want to sit there and I just want to watch what happens. Yeah. It's impossible to like, I could give you a recommendation for every marketing book on the planet. It's impossible to learn marketing without seeing the true things that happen. And I would just want to be sat there around people who are marketing. If you sat in our office, you not only would you learn how outbound works, how LinkedIn works, how we do content, you'd also see how we market ourselves. You'd be there seeing how we do a live event. Ben's one of our account managers, was there on Tuesday when we just did our live event. He has, technically speaking, no like live event background, but I bet now he could put on a live stream because he'd be like, okay, I know this is the studio and here's how the studio works and here's who runs this.
You did very well on Tuesday.
Thank you. And now, you know, Benny's fantastic, so I'm sure he could do anything anyway. But like Ben, if he wanted to, could go and work as an internal marketing coordinator and run live workshops if he wanted to, because he understands that. And it is just this like osmosis of like being close to people. So I think if I was looking to get into marketing, I'd be finding small startups where I can have a big impact but learn a lot. And the worst thing you can do is just consistently apply for jobs at Gymshark like everyone else does.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting because I'm a university student, so I did a placement year. And in our first year, they always said to you, you know, you can learn marketing, you can have a 3-year course, learn everything, do a master's in it, and you've got a qualification in it, but you haven't actually done it. It's until you've actually sat in an office or, you know, you've gone out on site and you've done certain things that you actually need to do to build up your portfolio and obviously just get more experience. You can't do that from, you know, just listening to someone or just doing some like a course online. You need 100%. To be with other people that are doing it to learn as well.
It's one of the best. I love that you said that. I think it's really underrated. You know, there's so many things I think about university. I went to university, so I'm not anti-university. What I am is like anti the idea of like you can go from like theory to just going in and like I mentioned Ben before. He did that placement year when he was in university, and he joined us after a couple of years experience. But like one of the things that was really unique about his interview was he was able to talk us through not only his recent experience but the placement year as well. And you suddenly have quite a lot of, you're not coming out as a new graduate, you're coming out as someone with real experience. And I think there's a massive gap now. So I did a marketing degree in the US, and like I remember I was in my final semester and they were going over like product placement. What are they? 4Ps. Product placement, promotion. I still don't know the four, so I can't learn much. But I remember thinking, like, I was working a job at the time. At the same time, and I was like, zero of this applies in my marketing role, which I'm getting paid a great salary for. And I was like, this just doesn't make sense. And now I see it on the company side where it's like, it'd be very tough for me to hire a new grad without a placement year, because like the theory just doesn't translate. And as mean as it sounds, like, you simply can't offer any value to our business coming out with pure theory. In fact, for the first 6 months, it's going to cost me time, energy, and money to get you trained up to be ready.
Because there's only so much you can actually learn from reading or just listening to someone instead of actually doing it. And
half the stuff you read is absolutely bullshit anyway.
I don't think my whole placement year, I don't think one thing came from my university at all. Saying that I am still going back, so I can't slate university that much.
Money well spent. The social aspect is good.
So what's your favourite part about running an agency?
Really interesting question. What's my favourite part? You know, I was going to write a LinkedIn post this morning. I did write one, but I cut this line. I was going to say that online, running an agency looks like, you know, Lamborghinis, gold watches, and sipping mojitos on the beach. And the reality is, it's a lot of mundane days and brutal weeks. And that's the truth. Is like, the irony of it is, like, my life is actually quite like mundane, Monday to Friday. My partner jokes that, like, that I'm like locked in Monday to Friday, like I don't do anything other than work, and then I like lock out. And it's true, because like I'm getting home at the minute at like 7:50, and I go to the gym for like 30 minutes. Like, I'm get home, shower, eat, and I'm like in bed, and it's like Monday to Friday, like, I'm doing nothing. I'm like miserable. No, I enjoy working. It is my hobby. What do I enjoy the most about it? As interesting it is, I think it's just like building something with other people. I was at this round table the other day, and I was with some older agency owners, and two of them were massively successful, like sold 4 agencies, like a million steps ahead of me, and they'd both retired and unretired to start a new agency. And the reason they'd unretired was that they were like, they realised that, like, to them, life was just about like doing cool things with people they enjoy. And the reason I love agencies so much, and our agencies, because like I go into work and I get to work on projects with people I enjoy working with. And it's a hack, because I choose who I'm working with. That's such a thing. Like, I'm massively anti the idea of like freelance, travel the world on your own. I think it looks much better on social media than it is in reality. And I know a lot of people who did that, who started at a very similar time to me, and not only did they struggle and weren't able to keep up, but actually the reality of it was it's quite miserable in Bali when you sat on a laptop and it's sunny outside, you're sweating, you've had food poisoning for the last week, and you're trying to build this business, but you're remote, and it's like, do you know what, as much as it sounds bad to say, I'd rather be in rainy Manchester with a team sat around a desk working on a project.
I can definitely relate. I'm freelancing at the moment, and it's definitely more lonely than social media makes out to be. You know, you see people all the time, they're in Bali sitting, you know, having a nice smoothie or a nice coffee on the beach, and you think, oh, it looks amazing, but actually reality it's not.
Then actually they go back to their Airbnb or whatever they booked out, and they sit there on their own, and then like, God, I'm gonna have to go out and get smashed again because I can't sit here on my own.
How did you find your first year in business, and what have you learned from it?
Oh, terrible. So I did a LinkedIn post, and I found it the other day. I scrolled back through, and when I quit my job, the next day we started the business. But ironically, my LinkedIn post, the hook is, today's my first day as a freelancer. And it's really interesting because I said I was a freelancer because I didn't want to say I'd start a business, because I was like, I don't know what starting a business even is. So I said freelancer. That seemed like a really easy thing for me to say. And I was like, do you know, first day as a freelancer, I think I'm doing this, not really sure. Let's see how this goes. It shows how LinkedIn was at the time, and the demand for LinkedIn as a service was, we ended up hitting 6-figure run rate. So we were doing over 10,000 a month in 11 days after that post. And the post, by the way, I was in like a blue Puma top. My hair was a mess. I hadn't got a haircut in about 6 weeks. It was a terrible, like, I would never post a photo of me like that. Like, my laptop's there, I'm cheesing in this Puma top.
You think in the time, oh, this is brilliant. I was look back and you're like, no.
I was terrible. And anyway, so we hit 6-figure run rate in 11 days. And ironically, like 6 months ago, that would have been my dream. Like the idea of like £100,000 being in a bank account would have been like, whoa, this is crazy. And it was terrible. Like I didn't understand what a business bank account was, what getting trademarks was, what an accountant does, how much do you pay for an accountant, how do you hire staff, how do you write a contract, what's a CRM, how do you do invoicing. And I remember like when we first got someone to do our invoicing, like it was because I was building out invoices on a Google sheet and forgetting to send them because we had too many clients. And I was like, we were like not charging people, and we were just like watching the bank account and going like, has it gone up enough this month? Vaguely, depending on, like, we were just eyeballing it for way too long. But we were eyeballing it for like 9 months, like not like 1 month, like 9 months. And it was terrible. It was incredibly stressful. But more than anything, like, me and Morgan came from a working class background. Dad worked in a factory. Mum was a teacher eventually, but she worked at Oddie's before that, the bakery. And we'd never seen money before, and it was quite a scary feeling. It sounds like hark is me, but it was a quite scary feeling. So much so that we didn't take a pound out of the business bank account for 18 months. So we were like actually very, very poor for the first 18 months of business, because we were like we didn't know what to do. We didn't know how long it was going to last. Yeah. It was like it was quite a scary feeling to have money in there. So it was like, but on the other hand, it opened up a massive world of what was possible. I'm good friends with Ash Jones from Great Influence, and he's best friends with Stephen Bartlett. And I was talking to Ash over coffee a few months ago, and Ash had just won Great British Entrepreneur for creative entrepreneur of the year, something like that. It's a Great British Entrepreneur award, and he sent a photo on WhatsApp to Steve Bartlett and of his award, and Steve texted him back and said, "Now you can see that all the walls around you are paper thin." And when he said it, like I was just like, we were just chatting. So I was like, oh, that's cool. And I was walking home from that coffee chat, and I was really thinking about it. And I was like, it's so true to everything I've experienced. And my understanding of the analogy is that, like, for anyone, it's like you think you're in this box, and like, oh my god, all these people make so much money, all these people do this. But then if you just like touch the wall a little bit and push on it, like you fall through it, and you realise like it was just completely a fictional wall that you made up in your head. Yeah. And while that first year was really stressful, I realised that like that for me was a paper wall breaking through. I pushed through it, and I was like, oh wait, everything I've ever wanted is just here. And ever since, we've been chasing after it.
So I find it really interesting because you told me you both put £9 each when you first started into the account together.
Yeah, we were so nervous, man. We were so nervous. It was a Monzo account, and we got this Monzo account, and God knows how we set it up, right? I'd hate to know the legality. We set this account up on Monzo, and I think we put £9 each in it. I think it was like either buy the domain or register on. I think it was like £12 to register on Company's House. Yeah. So it might have been the domain and to register on Company's House, and it's so funny because it's like, why not put 20? But we didn't have the money. Like we had no money at the time. I was living in America in my current partner's apartment, and I wasn't paying rent. I wasn't paying utilities. I was like a scrounger. I had no money. We used to joke that she was my sugar daddy because we'd like go get acai bowls and she'd pay for both of us. I've got a really sad story where it was like, I think it was her 24th. And went out for dinner at a nice restaurant, and she paid for both of us. And I just didn't have the money at the time. Yeah. And I wanted her to go to a nice meal, and she did as well, but I couldn't pay for it, so she paid for both of us. We had nothing, but we put £9 into that business account, bought the domain, registered on Company's House, and and it's funny that back then there was a lot of paper walls around me.
It just really shows how much, if you believe in yourself and how much work you actually put in, what you can achieve from it.
Yeah, and I think people forget that, you often don't have that belief at the start. It's like action first. It's like we didn't believe we could make a ton of money or have a multi-million-pound business or be in the position that we are today, but we just took the step anyway. Yeah. And I was just talking before this podcast about like that people are winging it all the way to the top, and I think that's really important to know is that like I have met people worth 50 million, 100 million, 500 million. It's like every single person on that journey is like, if you ask them, would be like, no idea what I'm doing. Like everyone's out of their depth, and it's like, and you can't, that will never resonate until you see it firsthand. But like everyone I've met along the way, I've met people who are like, you are like an idol, and you're like, 1 minute, they're just the same as me, they're just winging it. And then you meet the next one, it's like, they're winging it too. And You know, if you watch my day to day, it's like, yeah, it might not look like I'm winging it now because I've winged it for so long, but the reality is, like, everything that I will do over the next 5 years, you know, I have no idea what I'm doing. A lovely quote my partner uses a lot of the times about adults is, you know, it's their first time doing life too.
Yeah.
And I love that. And while it's works in like life, it's in business too. It's like, I have never done a year 6 of business. I've never done a year 7 of business.
Yeah.
It's completely new to me, as it would be to anybody else. And that's when you realise that, like, it's all the way to the top. It's just about like taking it some step versus like, and the belief comes like, now do I believe I could have £1 million a year business? I'd probably, if I went to 0, it'd probably take me 3 months to get back. But it's like, I believe that because we took these random little action steps, and you see it happen.
And it's exciting as well, you know, instead of being scared to take that step and do it, you've got to think, I'm actually excited to do it, because you'll push yourself more than if you're scared to hold yourself back from it. Yeah,
and I think the beauty of it, doing it young, is you have nothing to lose. Like, if I zapped all the money from your bank account today, took everything from you, it's like, what's the worst thing that can happen? It's like, oh, I have to move in with a friend or my parents for a few months. It's like, who cares?
But
like,
you work yourself
I could lose everything tomorrow, and joking aside, like, other than not being able to pay rent this month, like, it really wouldn't affect me. I only have one expense, which is rent, and I don't think I have anything else monthly, personal wise. Yeah, I'd live with mum and dad for a few months, and I'd be back on the horse. And it's like, when you understand that, it's like you're able to take risks and do things. I think one thing that's really interesting as well on risk taking, one of the best pieces of advice I've been given, I think it applies to you doing freelance, is to pay yourself more. Someone once said to me, is that you make bad decisions when you're poor, and you make good decisions when you're rich. I never understood that, and someone reminded me of it a few months ago, and it really resonated, where, like, when you aren't financially secure, you make irresponsible decisions because you're not comfortable. When you are financially secure, you can make good decisions because you're not operating out of a place of fear. So in the business sense, for the first like 2 or 3 years of the business, first 18 months we didn't pay ourselves. First 2 or 3 years probably like the lowest paid. The team didn't even know we were like lower paid than like team members for a long time. Thankfully not anymore. And you know, I think we made a lot of bad decisions in that time. We made good ones too, a lot of bad decisions. And we thought we were making a good decision not paying ourselves because you could invest in the team, in growth, whatever else. And the reality was, if I was doing it again, I would have filled myself and Morgan's pockets first. While that sounds really selfish, business is a selfish game. But secondly, is like, you operate from a much higher understanding and just a place that isn't defensive. You can be offensive when you actually understand that, like, okay, if this goes wrong, I'm not poor. I'll be in a good place, and because of that, you actually make quite objective decisions rather than like with your emotions as well.
That's really interesting. I've never looked at it like that.
I'm telling you, anyone who's ever been like 20 years ahead of me, like, one like common piece of advice is like, you make bad decisions when you aren't rich, which sounds like terrible. Maybe the other word is like, you make bad decisions when you're poor. And what they're saying is that, like, essentially you have to just, especially in the early days of your freelancing, running a business, is just like really be selfish, and just like, it's for you, and everyone else is taking money off your plate.
Yeah, and everyone's doing the same thing. You know, everyone needs money in life to live. So you've just got to. It's harsh being selfish, but you kind of have to be when you're in business, really. Yeah,
and I think a good example is, like, let's say I have no idea what you earn, but let's say you suddenly got a contract for an extra like £15,000 a month, right? It'd be like, obviously great. You might retire and say, I'm just going to do this contract. But like, the reality is, you can start to make decisions about, okay, which type of clients do I want to take on? What's the best work I do? So like, you're no longer operating out this mindset of scarcity. We were operating out a mindset of scarcity, and we were doing like 500, 750 grand a year, and still being like, oh my God, like, this client wants to come on, and actually it's going to take up all of our time, and I'm going to have to work on it personally, but like, let's take it on. And when you zoom out from that and you're in a much better position, then you can start to make good, like, much better decisions of like, actually, what's the right thing to do here, and you can be objective.
Yeah, and I always find this really interesting. I've always said this, but when you're not, you always try and say yes to as many things as you can.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to understand sometimes you actually do need to say, no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And not take on so many things.
I'm the prime example of someone who said, I'm very hypocritical here because I said yes to everything. We took on any client who want to give us money for at least 3 years.
Yeah.
So it is hypocritical of me. But it's a lesson. It's a lesson I think you've got to learn the hard way.
Definitely.
And I also ironically think the people who do fill their pockets first, if you naturally do that, it isn't a great signal of, what's going to happen in the future, because from a mentality style point. But I think it is, in retrospect, a lesson that I wish I would have learned slightly earlier.
Yeah. One thing I really want to get onto actually is, with AI increasing in all industries, obviously massively in marketing, where do you see marketing moving next, and how do people need to adapt to it?
Yeah, I think AI is like, if I was in your shoes, like the number one thing I'd be thinking is like, is AI wise? So like, to paint a picture of the landscape, like I said, I was at this roundtable the other day, and it's like all the biggest agencies in Manchester are really there, and there's a lot of large agencies that are like, we're talking about. So in the marketing landscape, like fully, there's the marketing networks, which obviously like massive powerhouses. They're like buying and selling agencies, Then you've got the massive independent agencies, so they're independent, but again, hundreds and hundreds of staff, and that filters all the way down to like us, small independent agency. And right now what's happening is the big marketing networks are really, really struggling with margins, because the brands are generally struggling, the economy isn't meant to be great, like macroeconomics, so they're going to like smaller agencies to get cheaper prices, so the networks are struggling, so they're laying off a lot of senior marketers. There's been the highest influx ever of fractional CMOs. One reason is because it's a trend, and fractional CMOs is like a great title, but another reason is because there's senior marketers and marketing networks being laid off, and they can't find another job, and that's when they go to being a fractional CMO. You've then got the independent agencies who are just getting undercut, and what is becoming is a 3-stage market. There's the top stage, which is like still the big networks, and they work because it's like, there's a quote where you never get sacked for hiring IBM, and what that means is you don't lose your job for hiring something that's really secure. So if I go and bring in a big network agency, it's like, well, I'm going to keep my job, it's safe, they're a big name, if they fuck up, like, everyone's like, well, you still made a good decision. You've got the middle ground, so the big to medium-sized independent agencies, and they're very bulky. That means a lot of staff, margins aren't great, and they're getting completely smashed at the minute. Like, they're not doing great. And you have the small independent agencies. And small independent agencies are going a 50-50 split of they're either innovating heavily and making a killing, or they're not, and they won't be around in 5 years. So what I would look at from an AI perspective is that middle ground there is just going to be completely depleted from a marketing landscape. And what will emerge is these small independent agencies that are innovated, so like very AI efficient, will start to eat up more and more of that market. And the marketing agency model is, I don't want to go too deep into it, marketing agency model is changing massively. So one thing that I talked about on another podcast is like our EBITDA margin for May was about 47%, which means that we essentially made about 47% profit, which is like way too much for a business. You should be operating about like 20%, was traditional for a marketing agency. Okay. And you might be like, wow, that's great, you're making loads of money. The reality is that we've been really efficient with AI. And some people would argue you have to reinvest the money to grow for whatever. But like the reality is it's really efficient. And because of that, we could technically, if we wanted to, undercut every agency on the planet, because we can, what it costs us to do our work is now 50% less than it used to be. So we can undercut anyone if we wanted to. So the medium agencies will drastically decrease, and the ones who are AI leverage will eat them up. So from a marketing perspective, if you're able to come in and deeply understand AI, you'll be able to, one, go into the big networks or the struggling agencies and have a big impact, and you're no longer like a junior employee, but you're a high impact, high leveraged employee. Or you'll go into these fast growing innovative industries and be able to fit in, because that's what they're looking for. A title that I love we're hiring for is a GTM engineer. A GTM engineer is someone who does outbound systems with AI. So, for example, we're going to get too technical here, I'm sorry. Right now, you can use AI, and I can scrape the engages of any LinkedIn post. So, for example, we are scraping the engages of our competitors' leadership teams. And if anyone engages on one of our competitors, we reach out to them and steal the lead before they're able to reach out to them with AI. Fantastic. Yeah. The GTM engineer does that. We paid a recruiter about £3,000 to look for a GTM engineer in Manchester, and they sent us the money back because they couldn't find one. We also had a LinkedIn search done for GTM engineers, and there was one GTM engineer in the whole of Manchester, and they worked for Flawed, who's a good friend of mine's agency. So there's literally zero in Manchester of like an AI leveraged GTM engineer. So when you think about from a marketing perspective, if I was a young marketer trying to get into it, like there's a massive demand for that title, and the supply is non-existent. In America, if you search GTM engineer, there'll be GTM engineers all over the country, especially in San Fran, and especially in the UK as a marketer. I would be sitting in that, and that's a role that you can quickly go from like a 30k a year to 70k a year because they're so in demand. You would skyrocket in that role.
I think where AI is increasing so rapidly, like it's a couple of years ago you would look at it and think, oh no, you would never expect
I'd
it
search
to be
like, how do I cook a chicken breast?
But because one thing's interesting, which we need to get into as well, is obviously the new social ban that they're bringing on under 16s, which I don't know how they're gonna track it, or because I mean,
it's bonkers, isn't it? Is it not a bit bonkers?
It's ridiculous. I've never listened to this, but
I saw it on Twitter, by the way, and I was like, I thought it was an AI video of Keir Starmer, because I'm not up to date with the news, right? All I know is there's wars going on, and I think that's great. I'll keep out of that. But I saw it, and I was like, surely, like, where did this come from? No one told me in advance, but this is crazy.
It feels like it's come out of nowhere, and I don't know how they could traffic it. I mean, my first Instagram account, I was well underage.
I got Facebook when I was like 10, 9.
Yeah, I feel like it's so easy to lie about your age online, so I don't know how they're gonna track it, or like I don't know how they're gonna do it. No idea. But I've seen a couple of interviews where they're talking to the younger generation about it and saying, you know, what are you gonna do when this social ban comes in? And it's mad. I never thought it, but it's crazy to think how many young people rely on it. I mean, definitely in university they have a good system of, you know, when you do a report or an essay, they put it through a system so they can track to see if it's got AI in it, and then obviously you're instantly disqualified, which is fair enough. It's good to use. They do encourage you to use it, obviously, to look up different, you know, to kind of utilize databases and look into things like that. You know, as long as you give it all the prompts it needs to, you've got your own knowledge, and you're not just whacking something random in and just thinking, well, I'll just take that. You know, you're not strategically thinking. There's nothing going on behind it anyway. And I think so many young people are going to come out of school and not going to be able to get a job because they can't actually use, this sounds really stupid, they can't use their brains because they're so used to just using AI.
Yeah, Carrie Rose has this like really beautiful thing that she's doing at the minute where she's not letting any, I think it might be true, so fact check me on it, but she's not letting any junior employees at Rise at 7 use ChatGPT for things because she wants them to think of creative ideas. I love the principle of that, sorry Carrie, but on the other side of it, it's like, the way I see it is like me saying to you, you're going to lose creative ways to do math because of the calculator. And I would be like, well, no, I'm just going to use the calculator. Am I worse at math because of the calculator? Yes. But does that matter? Do you know, like at GCSEs, I got an A* in maths. It was like my thing. Like if you asked me like 8 times 9, I'd be like,
counting on your fingers.
Yeah, I'd have no idea right now. Do you know what I mean? It's like, does that make me less intelligent? Kind of. But does it affect my day-to-day life? No.
Yeah.
And I think that like, there's a lot of negatives of social media ban. I think there's going to be really interesting things that happen. And there's a lot of negatives of AI. But, like, it's like, how much can you fight against it? It's like, we sometimes joke in the office about, you know, Elon Musk's, what does he call it? Neuralink, chip in the head, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, I would be like, I'm never doing that, right? I'm never doing that. Like, I want to think for myself. And he'd be like, well, guess what? If suddenly 20% of the population were super geniuses and just took my job, I'd be like, chip me up. Chip me up, do you know what I mean? I want Google in my head. And it's just a case of like, there's only so much you can do to not embrace it. If I was a parent, what I would be trying to do is find useful ways for them to benefit and gain from AI. And it's like, it's like anything in life is like, you can have good things with it, you can have negatives. So the social media ban, I think, is really interesting. And, you know, whatever perspective you have on it, mine is kind of like, is it an excuse for like bad parenting? Where it's like people get a lot out of social media. My little brother, he's like 15 or 16. I think he's 16 now, so he might be good. But like he's a football referee, wants to be a referee like football, and like his TikTok is like referees giving advice, and like if someone doing a slide tackle, and it's like, was that a yellow card? And it pauses it, and it's like you can still get a lot out of it. My granddad uses TikTok, and when it first came out, he was like, "Have you heard about this platform?" We were like, "What?" He was like, "TikTok," and we were like, "What? Why are you on TikTok?" He went, "It shows me how to play these chords on guitar." And he was like flicking through, and it was like, you know, play this song. And he was like, next one, he was like, it's amazing. He's like, I've watched some of these guitar videos, and it shows me more of them. And you don't think, do you, that like, you know, the algorithm works? And he was like, I can't believe it shows me more of the videos I want to see. This is amazing. But people get a lot out of it. And it's like, the issue wasn't social media; it was how people were using it. Kids just like scrolling, and it's like trying to confiscate devices. But actually, you know, you could actually have kids using AI to expand their learning and learn new things and go down rabbit holes. And like, I'm sure there's kids out there that will be like super geniuses because they used AI early, and not the opposite. So I really think that there's probably a parenting issue where rather than an AI or a social media issue. I generally like hate, not to get into politics, like generalized laws of like now everyone's not got social media because actually like 80% of parents decide to throw their kid on Instagram because they want to have some quiet time while they eat their dinner.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because I said this to my mum the other day. I said it's like taking Facebook away from 50-year-olds.
Yeah.
You know, what
would they do?
Yeah, they're so used to it.
I saw this clip, it was on the BBC, and it was a young girl, and they were like, obviously, he was like, what was your screen time over the weekend? It was like 9 hours. I said, what are you going to do? She goes, stare at the wall.
I thought it was brilliant. But it's so true, it's literally like handing food to a baby and they can't have it.
Yeah.
Like, they've grown up with it. You can't just take it away instantly from them. And yet, there's so many good things from using it. Obviously, there's bad things, but you can't take away just one element of it if it's already out there.
Yeah, and it's like kids are always going to find a different thing to do, and I don't know. I think the interesting thing is how it affects marketing, right? Because a lot of people have been talking about this. Is like, for example, what if your ICP was? What if you were like Ryan's Toys on YouTube? I don't know if is YouTube classed as social media. Is that going to be banned?
Yeah.
I don't know, but like
I think it would be,
so like. What your Ryan's Toys, your whole market is, well, I suppose he's global, but let's say you're a UK version of it, you like do toy reviews for kids, it's like, oh, actually, your business is gone.
Yeah.
Like, best of luck with that. And it's like, oh, well, these poor kids are just watching, like, the new Batman toy review, and it's like, it's crazy. But they'll always find something else to do, so it's like, they're not doing social media. I'm not sure if Kia thinks this or not, but, like, I don't think they're all going to run outside and start playing football again.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? They're going to go on the Xbox. Like, what, you're going to do ban Xboxes? Or they're going to go on the iPad, whatever else you can do nowadays. But I think for a lot of marketers, it'll make it really, really difficult for two things. Is like, one, how do you go from never being on social media until you're 16 to suddenly it being like the #1 marketing channel, depending on what social media channel. Generally, social media is like biggest marketing channel on the planet. It's like, okay, now you've got from 16 to 18 to figure it out, get into the industry. And like, if you think about the gap and divide of someone finishing uni at 21, 22, and like actually you've been on social media for like, what's that, like 6 years.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're never going to be able to compete.
No.
I think it's going to create an even bigger talent gap as well.
Yeah, because it's not just affecting under 16s, it's affecting anyone that markets products online. If your target audience is under 16-year-olds, you've lost a whole way to target them because they're not going to be on social media.
And there's this thing in America when you go to university. So Americans are a really interesting kettle of fish in general. My partner's American, and when you go to university in America, so you go at whatever age it is. When do you go to uni? 18, and they're in high school up until 18 in America. So they're very much treated like kids because you're in high school, like you are in the UK in high school. America is even more, in my opinion, they like get babied up until 18. And they're not allowed to drink until they're 21, so technically they're not drinking. And then suddenly, 18 years old, they get sent off to college, and it's completely free roam. There's alcohol, and your parents aren't there. And if you watched, like, freshmen's universities in America, it is absolutely, like, bonkers what happens. Like, everyone just goes crazy for the whole year, and they've never had anything. And it's this clear, distinct divide of, like, you get treated like a kid and don't get access to anything. And at 18, you go to college and run wild, nowhere near your parents.
It's one extreme to another.
And I think you'll see a very similar thing on social media where it's like, oh, no one's being allowed this thing until they're 16. And, like, I'm not sure 16 is a fantastic age to suddenly be, like, exploded into this world of social media either.
Yeah, I think it'll be a drastic change, and it'll be interesting to see actually what happens and what changes.
I'm just glad I don't have a 14-year-old child. That'd be a rough time.
Literally. What do you wish someone would have told you before you started your journey?
What do I wish someone would have told me before I started it? I'm going to say, like, tell me how hard it would have been, but I probably wouldn't have started if I would have known that. That was my first thing that came to my head. I think the second thing is similar to what Steve said to Ash Jones, is that, like, to understand that, like, whatever you want to do, it's, like, it's actually, it's the wall in front of you is paper thin. It took me probably up until really recently, maybe like 6 to 12 months ago, where like I fully embodied that, and now I understand that like there's no gap between where I am and anywhere I want to go. But yeah, I think that just like and just keeping it simple. I think that's another thing. So I think for the first 18 months, 2 years of business, we were always looking for this big swing, and it was always like, oh, like we're gonna do this, and this is gonna like have explosive growth. We're gonna launch this service. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna change the website. And then this is gonna happen, and the reality that you learn after many years is that actually like it's like really simple target. So like our biggest target right now is net new clients a month. Sorry, 2 net clients a month. 2 net new clients a month. Fucking hell. It's been a long time. And what that means is we just sign 2 new clients every month. So if we lose a client, then we have to sign 3. And that's our number 1 target. And we're working with an advisor, and sometimes we go into him in one of our board meetings, and we're like, do you know, we've done 3 net new clients this month. What should we do next month? And he's like, net 2. And then you go in like 6 months later, and he's like, what should we do now? And it's like, net 2 clients again. And ironically, this has been our biggest year ever. And it's the number 1 thing of that is we just kept it really simple, like and mundane and boring. It's like, we bring in 2 new clients. And what do? We bring in 2 new clients. And it's like, we're going to do a live event. How did it impact bringing in the 2 new clients? And that's it. And for the first 18 months, I was like, we're going to start doing carousels every day, or we're going to up to 10 posts a week, or we're going to start doing, we started doing a webinar every Wednesday. Like, always like a big swing, like, if we do that, then that's going to be the silver bullet. But the silver bullet is that there is no silver bullet. That's a quote from my old boss, actually.
That's really interesting, actually. I like that quote. That's really good. That's a good
I love
quote.
it. It's just all fake.
Yeah.
Like, there's no silver bullets, like, and anyone who tells you they're always lying to you.
Yeah. I like that one. That's probably the best answer I've had to that question. I like that one. Have you ever had a moment where you seriously doubted yourself, and what key takeaways do you have that has changed your perspective?
Yeah, so I only started telling this story recently, but at the back end, I think it was back in 2024, we developed so we were mainly a content agency back then, and we developed an outbound offer internally. And we trialled it with clients. We'd done everything right. We trialled it with like 3 clients that we felt like we'd have the most impact on. It worked great. We started scaling it up. We were hiring team members to deliver it internally. And we were like, right, we're going to launch it to the world. We worked with an advisor on how we were going to position it. We were really, really happy with it. We understood the type of people who would buy it. It was a really high ticket service. And we thought it was the most valuable like service offering we could bring to market. And we had an internal video team at the time, and we made like 3 high production videos to launch this new offering, and we were very excited about it. And we ended up, putting it live, and we were like, boom, this is going to be huge. Here's the landing page, here's what we've launched with it, and it was like just crickets, like nothing. It's like no inquiries. The post didn't do well. It didn't resonate in the comments. Like, it was just crickets. And up until that point, as like sad as it sounds, like I don't think we'd ever failed in like business wise. Like if we were failing, we didn't realize it. Like it was just like an upward trajectory. And then we launched this offer, and it was just nothing. And the reality was, before that, because everything was going well, you get this feeling that you have a Midas touch. Like we were like, launch something, boom, goes viral, or like your post goes viral, launch this, like 1,000 downloads, and then we launched this new offering, and it was like nothing. About 6 months earlier, we launched our video offering, and we've been like inundated with leads. And every time we had done it, like we always were successful. And then we launched this, and it was crickets. And ironically, like the offering was still great. Like it actually is our like number 1 offer today. Like from a delivery perspective, like 60% of the roster are on that offer. But at the time, we would be like the mistake we'd made was like we were positioning for like enterprise level. So we were positioning for like a £100 million a year company, but like our audience was more like 5 to 20 million. So it was just like there's a massive disconnect, and no one of these companies would really have trusted us at the time. But the biggest lesson for me was like we just got to be better when we don't have a Midas touch, and just like starting to think of like, okay, let's rein it back in a little bit. And it's a really tough lesson. Where me and Morgan were really, there was a few nights there when we'd launched it where we were like, we have no idea what we did wrong here. Like we talked to the right people, we mapped it out, we launched it well, and there was a lot of doubt after that. It took us a while to gain our confidence back, because it was a big punt that ironically paid off long term, but over the first 3 months of it, like it felt like we were absolute idiots.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's so many things you can do. If you say like we've done a campaign before and we've had nothing come from it.
Yeah.
And you do look at it and sometimes you think, I actually don't know what I've done wrong here.
Yeah.
You think you've done everything right, and it just doesn't work.
It happens all the time with LinkedIn posts. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, like your LinkedIn posting, because this sounds really sad. Posting confidence is like sometimes like you just like lose momentum in terms of the content you're posting, and you can start to think like, have I lost it? Like, do I know what I'm doing? And people underestimate in marketing like how much just like a bit of momentum builds the confidence of like, well, actually, there's another campaign that's like been unbelievable and fired off, and it's like, then suddenly the next one's good and the next one's good, and a lot of that reasoning comes from just like a little bit of momentum and confidence.
Yeah. And what's one piece of advice that anyone should know before getting into the industry?
Do you know, marketing isn't as fun as people make out. I think that I hate this idea that like marketing is like fun.
Yeah.
In fact, like if anyone says like fun in an interview, like we're like, they're not for us. Which is different because back in the day that would have been like we would have said like we were a fun place to work.
Yeah.
And I just hate that terminology. And it's not that we're not a fun place to work. Touch wood, I think we're quite a fun place to work. But it's like no one gets a job. Like work isn't fun every day. And marketing has been painted off to be this like, you know, marketing, I'm like getting a matcha and then I'm gonna like post a few Instagram reels and then like great, I'm gonna go to Pilates and I'm gonna go to bed and I'm gonna do a skincare routine. And it's like that is the daily routine of like 0.1% of marketers, and the rest of them isn't like that. And it's like marketing is extremely exciting, it's extremely rewarding, but it's not like just post a few social media things and then like you're off to the races. And I think people need to understand. I wish people saw marketing more like sales, as like, what did I actually drive? We've had people like internally that have worked with us over the years, or like have applied for jobs, and it's like, what did you do at your last company? And it's like, marketing. Like, you know what I mean? I posted on this and this, and it's like, well, no, what outcomes did that drive? And like a really valuable marketer is someone who's like commercially minded. Like, I understand how this impacts revenue or sales or, you know, expenses. Like, just genuinely understands that. And like, if I had a kid who was like graduating uni, I would be like, I would spend a lot of time with them understanding to be commercially minded, and you get a job very, very easily and well paid if you were like, you're not thinking, how do I do outputs? So like post, send an email, but how do I deliver outcomes of like, how do I drive revenue, sales, etc.
It's learning what actually comes from the content you're producing. Like, it's all good posting the content, but what have you generated from it, and what's actually come from you doing that? And
the best way to do that, we talked about at the start of like starting conversations, is like, if I was graduating from uni, I would like try and get on a call with me or interview anyone who was like accessible. I'd just be like, what if I was going to come work for you, what would you want to see from me? Like, I don't want a job, I just want to know like, what do you want to see, or what numbers would you want me to hit? Like, how would that work? And you'd be surprised how many people would be like really willing to like explain that to you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been really interesting. I've had so many different people on with so many different backgrounds, and yours definitely is probably the most interesting to me, seeing someone, you know, that has literally grown from the bottom up and has done so much. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been very, very insightful.
Thanks so much for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you for listening and watching Behind the Algorithm. If you would like to keep updated, you can follow us over on Instagram, TikTok and LinkedIn at Behind the Algorithm. Also, you can subscribe to us here on YouTube and also on Spotify to be notified when a new episode drops.